Okay, so today we've got tonight at midnight is the milestone, second milestone is due, which is to do the parser and generate the program listing. So you had a question?
Yeah, two. For one, does our state transition diagram that we're turning in have to be different than the one we turned in like 2 weeks ago?
Oh, it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the same, or it doesn't have to be different. But what it has to be is, it has to be what the code is.
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to be able to see this finite state machine and see the code.
Does it make us different?
And if you hold on one sec, and then if you made a few adjustments, you know, to your finite state machine because of that, that's fine. But I would like to see your code.
It's going to line up.
It lines up with the code because I'm gonna inspect the code, and I would like to see what your finite state machine is.
When we have to pass during our whole translation process, when we get to a non-unary instruction, we need to pass it 3 things when we actually create it.
Yes. So what you do is,
and our operand specifier and an addressing mode.
correct.
Is the addressing mode, do we need to have a whole separate structure for addressing mode?
I would.
Like an abstract addressing mode?
I would.
Okay.
Well, I mean, wait. Does it need to be abstract?
We just tested in our...
Wait.
Have a class that is addressing mode that has an attribute, which would be what address?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be abstract. I mean, because otherwise what you, well, I mean, if you if you really wanted to over-engineer your object-oriented approach, you could have an abstract address. You could have an abstract addressing mode, and then you could have
a class for
a class for each one. But it seems to me like it would be easier just to have one class for the addressing mode, and then have its attribute be the an enumerated.
Oh yeah.
And enumerated for the addressing mode. Don't store the addressing mode as a string.
Okay.
What if we made
That because enumerated, because that's an enumeration. There are exactly 8 addressing modes. There's exactly that screams enumerated. I mean, you know, if you're doing something that has 8 different things, I mean, that just
only 8.
Yeah, there are 8, and it's enumerated. You can enumerate those 1 through 8. So to store which addressing mode it is, it should be an enum.
And then we have to do all 8 addressing modes. It has to be able to.
It has to be, yeah, because some of those instructions you can do with all 8. Yeah. Okay. Question.
What if we made them mnemonics, the addressing modes, and put them in a table?
That's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying. But they're in there. But you don't call. But they're not really mnemonic. Well.
We did it by the mnemonics, and then we just.
Wait. You should not merge them in with the same mnemonic table.
No, it's in a different table, but it is in maps.java.
Oh yeah. I just have a Java map. Yeah.
Okay.
But they should not be merged in with the same table as the.
No, they have a different table.
Yeah. Oh, sure. That's what they are.
They're enumerated with the.
And they're enumerated.
And would that Java map have?
Oh, hold on. Oh, so now see, that's kind of weird. What you're saying is that it's all the same enum.
They're all mnemonics.
Yeah. Oh, so what you have, your enumerateds are.
Everything.
As everything. Oh, that's kind.
Have 4 separate.
Ooh, that's kind of ugly.
But then we have to have
I thought that's what it said in the specification online. Didn't you say to make an addressing mode map?
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
But what I'm saying, but what you're saying is, but what you're saying is, you have just one enum that enums mnemonics and addressing modes and you know. No, that's ugly. That's because they're not the same thing.
We should split those up.
You should.
So you want 4 separate enumerations?
Yeah. I mean, come on. You've got this great IDE, NetBeans, that lets you manage this plethora of classes and files and stuff.
But it works.
I know it works, but it's ugly. It doesn't. You know what I mean? I mean, look, you wouldn't want to have an enum. Suppose you have some application and you have like dates, and you want to have enum months, and then you have another enum that's, I don't know.
Things.
Yeah, months and planets. I mean, you wouldn't want to have months and planets in the same enum.
It makes for less files.
I know it may.
But you still have them in maps?
Yeah,
But you still have them in maps?
But you still have them in maps.
But you still have them in maps? 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 But you still have them in maps?
Yeah. Well, you've got to have maps to look them up and everything, but what you're saying is you're combining all the enums in one big fat enum class. Oh, that's not, that's, I know it works, but don't you see that that's ugly?
All right, I'm fixing it.
I mean, don't you see, I mean, I want you to make it, I want you to, we got to have good style, we got to have good programming style here. You know, we need good style. Style is important.
Do we, the Java map for addressing modes, is that how we're going to be able to say what instructions can use what addressing modes?
That would be a good way to do it. You could either hard code it, or you could have, ooh, yeah. Okay, did you hear what his suggestion was? Did you hear what Kyle said? Yeah, look, I mean, one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to decide which addressing modes go with which things. Well, I think this is a really good, this is a great question. Do you remember that there's two ways to implement a finite state machine? One of them is what? Table lookup, and the other one is what? Direct code. Now, do you see that design decision actually applies kind of like in general, but now instead of implementing a finite state machine with a table lookup or with direct code, what we're saying is that you can actually implement your decision-making process by creating a map and doing a table lookup, or you could direct code it. Now, let me give you a piece of advice on that. In my own big, programming projects that I've been associated with, in the old days when we didn't have good data structures and like maps and stuff like that all built in and convenient for us, the tendency was to hard code all that stuff. But do you see that if you have a decision-making point, thing that you have to implement, that if you just populate your maps correctly and just do a table lookup, that simplifies your code. All right, now it's true that it takes some time to get the map all set up and everything, but generally speaking, populating a map, the code for populating a map is easy to understand.
Right.
Are you with me? And then you don't have all these, and you can get rid of a whole plethora of if statements with big compound things in them. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, if you have an if statement with a whole bunch of compound, oh, if it's this or this or this or this or this.
Oh, ours is only 3 though.
Well, whatever. But anyway, what I'm saying is, in general, these days, when your programming languages and your libraries give you really convenient maps, and table lookups, I think that's a good design choice. Is to have a lot of it done with maps. And in fact, I rewrote one massive, well, it was the PEP8 simulator. And one of the things that we did with our latest rewrite was we consolidated everything into the correct, into a really careful analysis of what maps were needed, what tables were needed in order to minimize the complexity of the code, and made a huge difference. It's really, yeah, I encourage you to use that, to think that way. Now, do you see how you could do both? You see how you could do it both ways? Either with a bunch of if statements or nested if statements or whatever, as opposed to just having that information, having the legal ones. Somehow you have to figure out how to store that information in a map. But I'm not requiring this. But what I'm saying is, it would, I think you're onto something there.
I found a super cool Java function that I like.
Oh, do you want to share that helps you out? A super cool Java function? What is it?
Starts with. So you can use like.
Starts with, and what is it? Are you talking about a Java string?
It searches a string and sees if it starts with however many letters you want. So I did that for the branching modes. So I could check all the branching modes in one to see.
Starts with BR.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Not
Oh.
use that anymore though.
But isn't that one where you do a table lookup?
No, I don't think so. We did.
In our translator, we have to test if it's a BR instruction, then it's allowed to not have an addressing.
Oh, I see.
We just have to move the address
Right.
to another file.
So there's a
that you have
starts.
to do if it's BR.
Right, oh, I see. Well, see, here again, you could use a map for that.
You could use a map for that.
Isn't that cool?
You could, yeah, starts with is good.
Our table.
But then that
has
gives more
the-
ifs.
Yeah, a branch table. You could have all the ones that are branchable.
Two ifs.
And is all you would need, well, anyway. But anyway, that's cool.
We have for our.
So did you guys out there hear that? So she came up with, starts with, and that works on a string,
It's string dot starts with and then in parentheses string.
but then,
That's straight.
okay. So then, but what you have to do is you're dealing with mnemonics, right?
So if you
So you have-
that
so you
dot
like-
table
the-
get local.
Yeah, but then starts with that. Yeah.
So you can test all the branching modes in one.
In one,
that.
yeah, that's good.
And then that's what we use to get rid of the immediate addressing modes.
Right,
For them
right,
to put to.
right.
Is it okay?
Oh, I see. Yes.
So you don't have a super long if.
See what-
Yeah. That's very good. That's good thinking. Isn't it? I tell you, isn't it? Did you get your listing to come out?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Isn't that a great feeling when you see that listing come out?
Yeah. Well, the first time we were like not spaced all around.
Yeah.
It's not that pretty.
Yeah, but still, you can then you can, but then you adjust the spacing and it all comes out, right?
Yeah. But when you're talking about the %s has like, spacing formatting,
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't find anything about that online.
Hmm?
We found like the hex thing where it translates it, but in order, do you actually have to put
The
it
he-
manually in space?
No. There's a way.
I guess that's my question.
No, yeah, there's a way. Oh man.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, there is a way to have there's a way to have a quantity be left justified or right justified in a field. There's a way to give it a field width.
That's what we want.
Yeah, so you know,
Because you can do that like when we did the hex thing, having so many zeros.
see, like this, there is a way to have like a string. There's a way to specify how many characters are in the field, and to have the string be either left justified or right justified within that field. And so like this is what you need for your mnemonics, right? But you say you couldn't find any left justified. Google. What is it? String.
We just put spaces in.
We just put manual spaces.
We just made all of them 8 characters long. With spaces.
Yeah, that's.
It comes out pretty.
Yeah. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as my father-in-law used to always say. And then it's the same way with numbers. You know, there's a way to format numbers that are either left justified or right justified in a field. Are you sure there's, I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do that.
Oh, I bet there is. I just don't know how.
Well, I know, but I mean, what did you look in? Printf or
Yeah.
is that?
Or string.
Or string, yeah, or string dot format, yeah. And isn't there like, if you have an extra, isn't one of the parameters, well, I don't know. It escapes me now how to do that. But I could have sworn there was those kinds of details are.
Oh. So if we're going to have a map for the address modes, calling from a separate class of like address modes and mnemonics, does that mean we need to have a second string table also?
Yeah.
For those, because they're not going from mnemonics to strings, they're
Right.
going from address modes to strings.
Right.
All for style.
Well, I see everyone's tapping away. So,
I guess I'll test one of mine to see if it works.
and was this, did you look at the translate method? Here, let's take a look at it briefly. Here, up here on figure 7.44, was this translate
Oh, yes.
method all, I think that's pretty much done for you.
Yeah,
If
we didn't have to
change
change. I'm
anything.
not sure we had to change anything.
Maybe that error message,
Right here.
it's a dot end.
When you run it, it builds it.
Now that would be, that's checking for dot end.
Right.
Every time we do terminate.
Right,
Okay.
Oh, so it's right missing dot end sentence.
yeah.
Okay.
It's, yeah, dot end, that would be dot end, the dot command or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
That's not in the code online. In like your error messages online, it doesn't.
Really? I thought it did. I thought I had one that had a missing. Oh, I see. What did I do? Did I give a list of missing
In
ones?
your error messages, you don't have a dot.
But did my error run online have, was it missing a dot end?
Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't have the error message?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. I need to go back and fix
That's why
that.
we didn't know if maybe ours was.
Oh, no. I should go back and fix that. Yeah. That's my mistake. I'll make sure and adjust that. Yeah, if you don't have a dot end, then it's definitely wrong.
Why is it backslash quotation and backslash quotation?
Because notice that it's that you have a quote inside of a quote.
Oh, so that.
And if you didn't bash quote it, then that would the Java compiler would think that was the end of the string.
Got it. So it won't print the bash.
No, that's correct. It will not print the bash. But if you see if you had the quote in there.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's issues.
yeah. So that's the standard C quote, how you quote a character. It's the bash quote, right? You prefix it with bash, and then the character that follows it has special meaning. In this case, it's an embedded quote inside a double quote inside a pair of double quotes. You know, it's like how we do bash x00. Otherwise, the x would just be the character x inside that string.
Right.
So that x has special meaning. But when you precede it with the bash, that means hexadecimal characters to follow. 2 hexadecimal characters to follow. Well, gee, I was thinking that we would spend a whole lot more time answering questions.
We didn't think we could get it done in a few hours tonight. If we didn't do it over the weekend.
So you basically got it practically all done.
Mostly.
I think I've started doing some of the generating code too, just incidentally.
Which is what
While trying to like figure it all out.
Uh-huh.
It's like,
Yeah, actually you'll see, I think what you'll see is that generating the code is not that, for this is not that difficult.
Right.
Because you know, we don't have to do any optimizations and all that kind of stuff. Optimizations, that's what makes code generation hard. It's all those optimizations. But we don't have any optimizations, it's just a one-to-one.
right.
So it's the branching instructions could be X or I. Is that?
Correct,
But if it's not specified, we want it to be I.
correct.
Okay. If you have a branch on an X, should it print out the X or not?
Yes. Oh, it has to.
Does ours?
Yes, if somebody provides an X for the addressing mode for a branch instruction, it has to print out. Because if you didn't print it out, you would be saying that it's I. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What about if it prints, what if they specify immediate? Should we print it out with the immediate?
No.
Only
If they specify, if they are explicit in specifying I for the addressing mode, the standard canonical way to output it is to omit the I. Because otherwise, what would you have to do? Otherwise, you would have to have, what would you have to have? You would have to have an indicator in your code record that they were explicit. You could do that. And so that if they put the I in, you would put the I on the program listing. But in order to do that, you'd have to have some way to remember, you'd have to have some way to store in your code object the fact that they put the I explicitly. Are you with me? And that's, you don't want to have to do that. Wow. Well,
Doesn't give my address.
gee, this is great. I mean, I usually have all kinds of questions and everything. These are just very easy to answer.
We're just quietly typing away.
And everybody's quietly typing away.
For the addressing thing, should we not be testing in our translator if it's a valid addressing mode?
Yes, you should.
What were you talking about then when we need a different class for the addressing modes?
Well, you shouldn't have just one enumerated class that has all the enumerateds that you use in your whole program in just one big enumerated class. In other words, you should not mix the enumerateds for the mnemonics with the enumerateds for the addressing modes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
When I was doing implementing code things that inherit A code, whenever I would implement the generate listing or generate code function, I would get a warning from NetBeans saying that I need to put in an @override command before I do that. Are you familiar with what that is?
You know, I remember running across some warnings.
They're not red, they're just these.
They're yellow, yeah, yeah. And there was one, oh man, I'm trying to remember now what it was. There was one warning. I was able to get rid of most of the warnings pretty easily, but there was this one warning that I thought, well, this is a really persnickety warning that, but now, for the life of me, I don't remember what it was. But I know that NetBeans can be very. There's a setting in the IDE that lets you not display all those warnings, and it's probably set to display every warning. I mean, by default. And I don't remember now what the issue was. But what is it that it says?
It's where I am implementing, like generate listing in a specific case, and it's underlines it in yellow and says add @override command. And I think all it means is that it's like a warning that says this has already been declared in an abstract class, so whatever you do here is going to override whatever.
Is it whenever you're doing the typecasting?
No. It is in my class, like I have one that's like decimal operand instead of abstract operand. And I say string generate code, or public string generate code, and then I say return string.format, blah, 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 blah. And it says, oh, you need an override instruction. Add override annotation. That's what it says. And then it just puts a little @ override right before that. Yeah.
Boy, I don't know the answer to that question. Did you Google? Did you know what's really nice? What's really easy way to research that stuff is you Google the error message. You just copy and paste the error message if you can, or just type it, and you put an error message in there in Google, and maybe say Java or something, and man, it'll come up with. Because I'm sure people have run into that, and then there will usually be a discussion as to why the error message is.
Right.
You know, you can find it. Yeah, if you find out about that, let me know.
Sure.
That's what I always do. You know, I tell you, there's just programming languages these days are so big, and they're so and their libraries are so extensive that it's really hard to keep up with every single nuance of the language. So yeah. Well, gee, should we just end early?
Sure. I'll
That's
just be
all,
working
that's all
on
today
this.
is?
Is all we're going to do today is the work day?
Sure.
I guess I.
Okay, now are there any more questions? Because I'll just sign off, and these folks at home won't have the advantage of answering any questions. Are we good? All right, well, it's only been 30 minutes today, or 25 because we got started 5 minutes late. So this will be hasta la vista. See you later.